This is my review of the Pink Floyd album Dark Side of the Moon. It was released in 1973 and produced by Pink Floyd. And I think the engineer, Alan Parsons, from what I understand, had a lot to do with like the sound of it, so I should probably mention him. So this is the second copy of this CD, or album, I've got. I found this at the record store a couple of weeks ago, so over the shirt. My cousin and I went up, and I was kind of surprised to see this because usually I don't see Pink Floyd stuff around, or I haven't found any like older stuff. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling. It was late. I was actually going to review Live at Pompeii tonight instead of Dark Side, but then I kind of decided that I don't know if I'm going to talk about that or not, because I started to watch it, and for one thing, tonight I was like, well, it'd be easier to do Dark Side because it's shorter, because it's like a long movie, and I'm really tired. It's a really long day at work, so it's like a lot later than normal. I mean, I always film these late, but it's even later than what I usually film it at. So, yeah, I was like, I don't want to do the whole Pompeii thing tonight. I don't know if I'm going to talk about that or not. Maybe if I do, it'll probably be at the end of all the Pink Floyd stuff. But anyway, yeah, I just couldn't, was like, nah, I can't think of anything to say about this anyway, and I don't want to watch the whole thing, so I'm just going to do Dark Side instead. And my neighbors are like yelling at each other if that comes through on here, so anyway. So yeah, I got this recently. Tonight was the first night I listened to it. It played really well, so I was really happy with that. This was the first copy of Dark Side I got. Probably would have got it like Christmas 2006. Pretty sure it's Christmas. I remember seeing this at like the store and stuff, but I don't think I bought it. I think I got it for Christmas. I remember the reason I got the album was I heard, like at the time I wasn't into a lot of rock music. I was more into older country. But I was starting to kind of get into rock music, and I was on a camping trip in November, and my friend had this radio, and Money came on, and I was just like, wow, I gotta get some, or get whatever album that's on. So I was like, hey, who is that? And he's like, Pink Floyd. And I was like, oh, sweet, I'm gonna go check them out. So I got this for Christmas, and then first Pink Floyd album I got. Speak to Me is kind of like this like instrumental thing. It's more of like a lead in to Breathe, the second song. But I always kind of just listened to them together. Or I mean, well, actually no. When I was younger, I'd always kind of just skip to Breathe. Now I only really ever listen to Speak to Me if I'm listening to the whole album, which is kind of, I guess, not like a flaw of this album, but I thought that like I kind of, since everybody's pretty much said like everything there is to say about this album, I was like, I kind of want to try to think about something to, I don't know, not like complain about, but like talk about that maybe people haven't said, or that I haven't heard as many people say. And I was kind of thinking as I was looking at it tonight and something I never really noticed because I never had it on vinyl before, but the first side of the record is like kind of like, I don't know, if it wasn't for the second half of the record and like how strong it was, the first half like almost wouldn't work on its own, because it's just got like this song, or the Speak to Me, which is just this kind of short instrumental. I mean, Breathe's a really good song when it comes on, which Speak to Me, I guess, is credited to Nick Mason. Breathe is by Wright and Gilmore, and then it goes into the third song, On the Run, which is a Waters Gilmore instrumental. And I like it, but this On the Run to me is probably like the weakest track on the album. If I had to pick a weak track on Dark Side, it's just not something that I've really ever listened to other than when I listen to the full album. It's just, I don't know, it's just not really, like, I love the way it fits into the album, but on its own, it's not really something I want to hear. But then the fourth song for me, Time, is kind of when the album like really gets going. Not that I mean, with the concept and the way the whole album flows and how great it sounds and everything, like it all really works for me. So like I don't want it to come across like I'm complaining about the album or anything. But Time to me is definitely where it really gets good. Even though, I mean, like I said, Breathe was really good. The clock noises and stuff at the beginning, and the whole like beginning instrumental part. When I was growing up, I used to like fast forward through that on my little like CD player thing. Now I definitely listen to it. Like I used to just think it kind of went on too long, but now I think it's really cool. The clocks still like sometimes those get me when like they go off. It's like they're really loud, and I'll have the the radio turned up way too loud, and they'll come on and be like, oh god. So yeah, the alarm noises they put on there and all the clocks and stuff going off are really loud. But great song. I really love the guitar solo on this. I feel like it's one of my favorite of Gilmour's guitar solos, and I don't think a lot of people really talk about it. That at least not that I can think of that I've read or whatever. But I still actually like remember the specific moment that I was sitting there listening to it, thinking like, "Wow, I really like this guitar solo." Great Gig in the Sky was one that it took me a long time to get into. I can still actually remember the first time I heard that one. My friend Isaac was over and we were playing video games. Like we were playing separate video games for some reason. I was playing a PlayStation 2 game and he was playing something on I think Battlefield on my computer. And usually when we listen to music, we just like skip to the songs we liked on CDs. But I was like really into the game. Don't remember what game it was. I didn't want to get up to keep switching songs, so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna put on Dark Side and let it play all the way through. So I'd never listened to it all the way through at this point. I just picked out different songs before, and I don't think he had heard this song either because we were both like, what is this when it came on? And not used to like the vocal parts and stuff, which now are kind of like they're really cool. It's I think Claire Torrey is the singer's name, and she has these kind of like wordless vocal parts to this like really just kind of like haunting song, and it's cool, but it's not something that like I listen to a lot outside of listening to the album. Not that I really listen to a lot of this album anymore outside of just when I put it on because I've heard it so much. But definitely a pretty cool song. I don't think the live versions that they did later, I don't think like work as good as this studio one, but I'll talk about that when I talk about the live albums more, I guess. So side 2 starts with Money, which like I said, the first song I heard, I was immediately just like, kind of taken in by the bass line, and then that like bass riff's super memorable. Love the vocals from Gilmour. Great guitar solo on it, the cool like saxophone part, just the whole song is really great. Still, I mean, I've heard it like a million times, but I'm not really like tired of it. I don't like go back and listen to it a whole lot anymore if I'm not listening to the album, but I still enjoy it. Next is Us and Them, another song that I got into pretty quick off the album, with the kind of like echo and the Us and Them bit. I think that was like the first thing that I was kind of like, oh, that's cool. And then just, I don't know, just a really great song. Any Color You Like. It was an instrumental, so it was one that I didn't listen to as much growing up, but now I think it's really cool. Definitely, probably my favorite instrumental on the album. But yeah, I just at the time when I first got this album, I wasn't like quite into instrumentals yet. That kind of I got into that later. Then Brain Damage. Another great song. I haven't been saying who wrote the songs out loud, but it doesn't. Everybody kind of knows everything about this album anyway, I feel like. But Brain Damage, another great song, and then it flows like perfectly into Eclipse, which is just a perfect way to end the album. but I always listen to those two, I feel like, together, because Eclipse on its own is kind of just like, I don't know, it feels like it almost kind of needs Brain Damage to go into it, which is, I guess, like, not a complaint about this album, but this is definitely an album where, like, it needs kind of, like, parts of it need the rest of it. Like, if some of the, I don't know, like I said, I feel like the first half of this album, like, if the second half was like the first half, then like it wouldn't have worked. But the second half, I don't know, is the part of the album that like really kind of takes off and just like doesn't stop, whereas the first half kind of like builds into it more. But I don't know, it's just definitely a great album, 5 out of 5 for me, but holding it upside down. But I don't know, it's not my favorite Pink Floyd album. Maybe that's because I've heard it so much, but I definitely have, like, there have been times where people ask me, like, what do you think the best album is, and I use this as the answer. Do I really think that? Not quite sure, but I do think that this is like kind of almost as close as you can get to like completely perfect for an album in some ways. Just a great album, great sounding. Definitely check it out if you haven't heard it.